I recently just got out of the movie theater watching Thunderbolts. And keep in mind, I watched this in 4D with 3D glasses. Pretty much one of the more crazier experiences I had with a movie. I had a really blast my time, in a 4D theater with the damn chairs, rocking side to side and practically giving me whiplash here and there. And honestly, my neck still kind of hurts from a lot of the times that, when there was some action scenes going on, my head, starts spinning 360. Enough of that. We're going to be talking about Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts is a brand new Marvel movie that came out recently, and mainly I was a bit skeptical about it. I'll be honest, I was really skeptical about this movie. Not only because how Marvel has now have this track record of just, practically throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks. Me personally, I was there within the beginning of the Marvel phases, how everything was really hyped up, and obviously a lot of the movies were banger after banger. Some of them were in the mid lows, but they were pretty good overall. But this one surprised me without a shadow of a doubt. Thunderbolts is actually quite good. Very, I won't say like, oh, this is like the greatest, Marvel movie that they put out this year. I would say it's a good movie. One of the better ones that they've released. I know they got Fantastic Four coming out this year, and that one I'm actually really excited about. But Thunderbolts, man, it was a blast. It was a really great movie, but they did had some moments within it where basically the story was a bit stretched out. I would say there was some slow tempoing going on from that movie itself. Man, it was quite an entertaining experience. But let me start off with the story. So the story is mainly centered around Yelena. Yelena, who those don't know, came from the recent Black Widow movie, and she's basically like this like adopted sister to this little fake family that they had. I say fake too lightly. I'm also sorry, but they basically formed like a little family, like a little secret spy family within the U.S. that I remember from Black Widow. Black Widow was not really much of a memorable movie to me. No offense to some folks that actually were a fan to those movies. Trust me, I'm a fan of Marvel. I'm a sucker for that, man. I'll eat anything Marvel related. But mainly it's just about like Yelena, like kind of lost within herself, in life, and is trying to figure out her purpose. What's her calling to it. And returning character from some movies that was teased around named Valentina basically sends her off to a mission to where it's like, hey, I'm gonna need you to go over there and do some dirty work for me. And Yelena's like, okay, fine. I'm gonna try to do this one last time. Essentially, she just wants out and tries to like live her normal life until she realized it was just more than that and feels more like a setup. And then our characters from U.S. Agent, Ghost, Taskmaster. What am I saying? Taskmaster is there too, and including with our character Bob. And to folks, if you care about spoilers, I'm not gonna spoil anything about the movie, but I'm mainly just gonna say the character out loud that has been teased throughout the trailers. Bob, he's essentially Sentry, and and speaking of Sentry, his character is quite fleshed out, man. His character is quite, I'll say not too fleshed out, but it's kind of vague here and there, but you do piece it out throughout whenever you watch the movie. And especially, Red Guardian as well, who he feels almost in the same boat as Yelena, in a sense, through it out. Like, it's so hard for me to, like, describe anything with these movies without sounding any spoilerish, and all that. So I'm just going to try my best, not to spoil anything about this movie if you guys are watching this. By the time you're watching this, the movie's already out. I watched this on a Thursday. Fun fact: if you guys want to watch a movie like early, like literally look at Thursday tickets a day before the movie's release. Like you'll get a quite of a blast experience when there's actual like straight up. There are fans, literal fans, but luckily my theater was not as packed. I would say I don't think people really cared about a movie theater experience, but that's fine too. But the story, is like I said, it's really good. Where the characters, they come together. They're like practically anti-heroes, ex-villains or whatnot, and they found their new calling in life, and they find a new team, and therefore they are the Thunderbolts. You know, and the whole premise of it is that there is a secret project that was going on that Valentine wants to kind of keep hidden, but the Thunderbolts are there to basically, almost in a sense, expose the world to the secrets. So the characters are like kind of fleshed out, but not really. It's kind of vague. There's some moments in the story where you get to at least feel some of these characters and their backgrounds, what happened to them before and after. How they are, and there are some funny moments in the movie where they kind of bash on each other's like livelihood, or even bashing each other's like skill sets. Like, what do you do? Just kick and punch? That's what I do too. Like, what's the difference about you? Yeah, I got a gun. Yeah, I got a gun too, and it got a long barrel. Oh my god, that was so funny. But overall, even though these characters don't really have much superpowers besides one, you know, it it kind of becomes this like almost like finding yourself kind of story, like move along from what you were from before and become something better is what I think the message of this movie is coming to. But it did had a lot of like dark moments where we see, some of Yelena's backstory, and obviously we saw some, of US agent. We even saw a little bit of like some other characters, their backstories, and they're kind of dark. And it kind of dwells deep into like some sort of personal sides to these characters, letting like, hey, even though these guys, maybe all, they may be funny, they may be, superheroes that some folks will look up to, some villains, but they all have a story to them, and that's something that I like about this movie a lot. And what I like a lot is like these movies actually kind of pull the heartstrings. I'll be honest, there were a couple times I was tearing, in this movie, man. Like seriously, like so even like mainly with two characters, Yelena and Sentry. Because those two characters, like whenever they state their backstories, show where they come from and such, it's like it hits home. It hit home to me a bit. And I was like, oh my god, Marvel, what are you doing here? Like, oh my god, this is something new. Finally, I'm actually getting some sort of emotional connection to these characters for the first time in a while. And whenever some of these characters, I'll say mainly Sentry, when he gets his moments, is quite cool. In all honesty, and it dwells a lot, with depression, self-loathing, and just like you're stuck in life and you don't know what to do. But everything gets fleshed out in the end. But I don't want to get too much into spoilers into this movie, so I will. If you guys want me to talk spoilers, comment down below and leave a like in this video. I much appreciate y'all for real. If you guys are here, very curious about the movie, I would say it's a good watch. One of the more better movies that I've seen Marvel has put out. I know this is a little bit short and quite a good number that I could say, but I'll give this movie a good like 8 out of 10. It's not the best movie. It's a good movie. It's pretty much one of the better ones that we've seen out of Marvel come out this year with a much more different team. And make sure to stay tuned in the post credits and the end credits because it fleshes out a little bit more, a lot that's going on within the Marvel universe. And man, that end credit actually had me like, whoa. Like, whoa, something happened, but I'm not gonna get to that. But yeah, this is just me talking about Thunderbolts. And like I said, I do encourage people to watch this in the theater and to have the more theater experience. If you guys have a 4D theater like how I did, man, because like man, 4D theaters are insane. They will rock your world, dude. They will literally rock you up to the best of their ability and probably give you a concussion like how I have. I just want to state the record that Thunderbolts is one of the more better movies that Marvel has released this year, and I'm actually like really happy that they actually are somewhat going for more of the emotion, than they are just tossing jokes and just hoping what lands and just tossing money out of their butts, man. I'm really tired of that kind of Marvel. I want Marvel to be more of a serious trope. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed what you saw, leave a like, subscribe, and as always, take care, everyone. Bye bye.